It's May in Florida, so it's getting warm. I'm Dan Johnson, and I'm interested to look at an airplane that, gee, it looks so familiar, but it's not familiar because, as you see, it says AJ Sport here. I'm talking to Abid Farooqui from AeroJones Aviation USA. Did I get all that right so far?
You did, absolutely.
Great. So tell me a little bit first about why you are involved with this particular airplane.
So I am involved because AeroJones wanted to bring an airplane to the US market, and the airplane is based off of a license from Flight Design, and they're not allowed to bring it to the US market without making significant changes. And I, being a certification engineer and involved in the ASTM Standards and all that, I basically help them out to make the changes that can get them around the whole situation. So there's a definition of a major change, and basically, so the aircraft is different enough so it can qualify around the contract.
Yeah, now AeroJones, which is a Taiwan-based producer, was the licensee, I believe is correct to say, for the Asia Pacific market for the Flight Design CTLS
That's correct.
and CTLSI, which they still are, correct? They're still doing those things in those countries, correct?
Right, but they do not work under Flight Design any longer. They don't produce aircraft for Flight Design for Asia Pacific anymore. They produce it for themselves.
Yes, but they are properly licensed to do all that.
Yes.
So bringing this aircraft, now the AJ Sport, yes, it does look a lot like a CT, but tell me something about why it's not just a CT anymore.
Absolutely. So if you look at the wingtips especially, you can kind of see it over there.
Oh, yeah.
The wingtips are different on both sides. I think for, maybe a little biased, but I think a little bit more stylish than the blunt ones that were in the original design. And it also increases the wingspan just a hair, about just a little under a foot.
Oh, really? Is that
yes,
right? Okay.
Yeah, about 10.5 inches.
It was already a long gliding thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't have particularly long wings, but it glides quite well.
So
now it glides even a little better, huh?
Exactly, it does. And it's the wingtips are not blunt and like this. The whole thing just blends into a winglet upwards. So that's nice. That's one of the changes. So it will really change the wing. So we had to recalculate, especially towards the wingtips, the shrink distribution and stuff, and all that. And it did. We had to do all the performance testing again.
Now you had to do all of that because of ASTM standards. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So to qualify for ASTM standard, you're changing, structure at the wing. Although it's just a wingtip, it does require the performance and everything to be, and the analysis to be done again. The other thing you'll notice in structure outward is the engine cowling. It's been changed in design, and I believe the cooling efficiency is a little bit better. It uses the 912 IS, kind of like CTLSI.
Okay, so it is the IS engine
IS
in
engine
here, okay.
only, yes, in the AJ Sport, not ULS is not available.
Okay.
So the dual dynon, that's the same. The Garmin, or you can get iPad mini in there if you want. We are also doing an IFR trainer version where you can get IFT 440 or a Garmin. That will be an option if flight schools want to use a IFR trainer. It's not IFR. You cannot go into IMC, but you can use it as an IFR trainer.
As a trainer, yes.
Correct, with the VOR antenna as well as the Garmin equipment, or IFT 440 from Avidyne. We are doing that. The next plane that's coming in is actually going to have that.
Okay, so you are embracing those products.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. And so the engine cowling is redesigned as well. A little bit better cooling. I think a little bit better styling, updated styling. The propeller, now the standard propeller is E-prop.
E-prop, okay.
Yeah, I believe that Flight Design later on, after they had the parting, they also kind of approved the E-prop, but at the time they were only using the German propeller. I forget the name.
Neuform.
Neuform. And now it's E-prop. So those are the differences in structure. Internally, now there's some more changes. The engine installation.
You mean under the skin?
Under the skin.
Okay.
There are some significant changes as well. One starting with wiring. So there's a lot of improvements that came in. Some like, hey, this is not to aircraft standard. This is not like this. They incorporated all of that and just redid the whole wiring harness. So it's much more like you would look at it as Cessna one, like one of the GA airplanes.
I see, okay. Which will make it more familiar then
familiar.
to the average mechanic you take it to.
Yeah, it's still an IS engine, so it's not exactly,
yeah, of course.
max.
And you still need, and any mechanic working on that engine does need Rotex training,
Rotex
correct?
training, absolutely, they do. And but the engine is quite reliable and very efficient. So, the fuel burn is definitely 12 to 15% lower compared to a ULS at the same, everything being the same.
Give me a number. What is a typical fuel? You just flew over here from the Tampa area.
Yeah, exactly.
And what was your fuel burn?
From Zephyr Hills. I was flying at 100 knots, 108 true airspeed, and we were burning about 4.2, 4.1. Yeah.
Enjoy that, GA guys.
Yeah. And under the skin, I'll start with the biggest change that required the most work. The fuel circuit is different.
Ah, okay.
Completely different.
Well, that's kind of a big deal to change some of that, right? It's
all
in the wing, right?
It's in the wing.
Yeah.
So there were changes made inside the wing in the fuel tank. How the venting is completely different. More venting. The header tank is vented into the top of the wing, and things like that. The return line is different. All that stuff is different from CTLS. It's completely new.
So even though it visually looks similar, I mean, look at all airliners. They all look somewhat alike, and yet the producers of those would argue strongly that theirs isn't the same as the other guys. So.
Yeah, the ASTM standard has changed also. It's requiring more in terms of like, hey, you need to do this test to prove that there is no vapor lock, blah, 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 and in the most terrible conditions, and hot heat, get the, heat-soaked engine, go climb as far as you can, and where it does the first hiccup, that's your ceiling, writing down that this fuel is approved up to here.
I see.
Well, to qualify the fuels for that, you kind of have to work on the fuel system. You cannot use what was in 2012 and,
I see, because the standards themselves
have,
which is what FAA, for those that don't know, FAA uses ASTM standards to approve these airplanes.
Yes.
It's not FAA regulation that they wrote, often with the manufacturer, but still, this is totally the industry. But those can and do change, and you've had to change this particular AJ Sport to meet this current standards.
Correct.
I see, okay, please go on.
So you couldn't even if you wanted to, you couldn't just take it and use it. You have to qualify it. If you do proper testing and it's not working right and you're like, we got to improve that. So you have to redesign the fuel system anyway. And then on the other side, besides the fuel system, then you're looking at the engine cowling, the cooling of it. Cooling efficiency is better. I believe the styling is a little bit better. Like we said, the inside, the whole electrical layout, internally electrical wiring layout, is a bit different than CTLS.
Okay. So actually, despite the visual, I'll call it deception, that it looks like it's the same old airplane, it's not the same old airplane.
It's not
I
exactly,
should say same old airplane.
Yeah, it's based
It's always been a fine airplane. You just made some nice improvements to it.
And I mean, it's based on it. It's a license, we're not trying to run away from that, but it is different enough that we could qualify around the contract restrictions and come back into the U.S. market.
Beautiful. So, okay, now we're in the U.S. market, as it says right in your hat clearly and on your shirt, AeroJones Aviation USA.
Yes.
And so what's the deal now? Have you brought some of these in? You're just getting started, I know, but you brought some of these in. I believe you told me you had a sale at Sun 'n Fun, did you not?
We did, and we basically have 2 sales so far already.
Sun 'n Fun was kind of the kickoff, was it not?
Yes.
So we're talking not even a month ago yet.
Yeah,
but.
exactly. So January, towards the end of January, we got the Special Light Sport Aircraft certificate after the FAA audit. So FAA came out and audited us.
Let me excuse me for interrupting, but it is audited as the AJ Sport.
As the AJ Sport.
Okay,
correct.
please go on now.
Yeah, as the AJ Sport, complete drawing set, everything, and the manufacturer of record is not AeroJones Taiwan. It's AeroJones USA.
Okay, so this is manufactured in the USA, and some people are going, wait a minute, I thought you said it was made in Taiwan. And yes, this part is fabricated in Taiwan.
Correct.
But look at a Boeing.
Correct.
I mean, that airplane comes from all over the world,
yeah.
and then is assembled in the USA. But that's what counts, is where it's all comes together and who arranged it.
Correct. That's where the quality assurance comes in.
Right? I see, okay.
So basically, they are going to be becoming major suppliers of major assemblies to us. It's going to come here, and then we finish it here. We basically are the last, basically the final assembly and QA on this plane right here in Florida.
Now I can assume we have a Rotax engine, so that's from Austria to begin with. So obviously the airplane's made in more than one place. The prop is French, I believe.
Correct.
The E-prop is French. And I'm guessing you've got American instrumentation in it. So
they're all American.
Probably tire, I don't know what all is.
No, Matco wheels and brakes.
Okay, so another American product.
Dynon and Garmin radios and, Dynon HDX 10-inch dual. Dynon 2X is autopilot. And then you got the Garmin radios and Garmin 760 in there. So,
all right, so significantly already an American product just as you see it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so now what's the plan with AeroJones, AeroJones Aviation USA? How are you going to go about bringing the airplane to the people?
Yeah, so really we already, like I said, we had 2 sales. So we had said the first 5 we're going to sell at an introductory price just to get the market going.
And may I ask what that is?
Yeah, it is 175,000 plus some shipping costs and stuff. So right around 180, everything set into an SLSA.
And these days, everybody watching knows if you've priced a new LSA, over 200 is common.
Correct.
Over 300 is becoming
Right.
disturbingly common,
Yeah.
and even more than that.
That,
So at 175,
well,
that's kind of a bargain these days.
and you can cut out $10,000 because the BRS is optional.
Ah, okay.
And if you want 35 pounds more a useful load and you don't want the BRS, you're not convinced the BRS is worth it, you get it down 10,000 lower. So,
Yeah, so there are ways to
Right.
manipulate that price.
Correct.
Okay, so are you going to Oshkosh? We're here, we're doing this in 2025. I didn't say that earlier, but Oshkosh is coming here in, before we know
Yeah.
it. But a couple of months we're there.
Time goes.
Yeah, right fast.
Yeah.
But you're going to be there with it?
We are going to be there. SilverLight Aviation, which is my gyroplane and recon airplane, the folding wing company, that and AeroJones Aviation USA, they are back to back. We are going to be there. The guys from Taiwan, they are going to come and help. So we can, you're
Beautiful.
wanting to talk
So they
to
can meet
everybody.
them too if
Absolutely,
they want.
yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And AeroJones, as you know, is the company owned by Mr. Jones, who makes all those little lenses that are all in your phones.
The reason you can see this is
Yeah,
because
it's
of
because of the
Mr.
lenses.
Jones,
Yeah,
right? He makes,
right.
I think, something like 80% of all lenses for
for all
smartphones in
smartphones
the world.
in the world.
Yeah,
correct,
so that's
he's
quite
got
an impressive.
78% market. Yeah.
Jesus, that
Yeah.
right? Wow. Okay, so you're a guy with kind of a couple of hats on here.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't mention earlier because I didn't want to confuse the issue, but as
Sure.
long as you brought it up, you are the designer of the Air Ranger gyroplanes.
Yeah, American Ranger.
I'm sorry,
AR,
American
AR1.
Ranger.
Yeah, AR1 gyroplanes.
AR1 gyroplane, and you've designed a fixed wing as well. Tell me
Correct.
just briefly about it. We don't want to go into it, but tell
Sure.
me what you've done so people can
Yeah,
appreciate
so
what you're doing.
it's the Recon, and we just designed it and introduced it last year at Oshkosh. Folding wing, 10 minutes, 1 person.
So you did that last year.
Yes.
You did the gyroplane a few years before that. Now you're doing this one.
Yes, yeah.
Do you find time to sleep somewhere, I hope?
So, yeah, no, this is my sleeping. Yeah, I do sleep, but this is my 16 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you've made some fast progress
Yeah.
with this too, I know.
Yeah,
so
and before that,
I'm
as you know,
impressed.
evolution trikes and trikes.
That's
also.
true, that's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got quite a background in this
Yeah.
area of aviation,
Aviation, yeah.
and you've done a lot of work with some other companies that you didn't even mention there. We
Yeah,
don't need
yeah.
to mention, but
Yeah.
helping them with their
Yeah.
ASTM stuff. So
American
these guys
Legend
approached
Club,
you and said,
yeah.
"Would you help us like you helped all those other guys?" Is that kind of how it worked?
Yeah, they, like American Legend came and they needed engineering help with their Super Cub design and the floats, the amphibian floats they had done, and I did the engineering on calculations and engineering flight test stuff, all that
Beautiful.
stuff. for
And
them.
that's what AeroJones did with you then, too.
Yeah,
So
they
you're-
did that, and then they're like, hey, we need to also bring it in, and I'm like, who should we go with? So I think you suggested, why don't you?
Well, I've recommended you to some other
Yeah.
people too, because
Yeah.
I've seen not only that you got the job done, but you got it done quickly.
Quickly, yeah.
Which, I mean, who comes with an airplane and goes, oh, well, now I got to do all this. Gee, I got a couple of years I can put into that. Nobody has that. I
Yeah.
mean, you want to get your product on the
Product
market,
out, yeah.
assuming it passes,
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
did. So.
Yeah, it did, and where it didn't, we fixed it. Yeah.
So now that's enough about the background of the
Yeah.
airplane. What people really like, the viewers that I have really like, they want to know about the airplane itself. Tell me a little bit about the airplane, performance, its handling, some of its interior qualities. Just take off and
Yeah,
tell me some
so
things about it. Why should someone buy this airplane, in other words?
Okay, so very spacious, 49-inch cabin.
Wow,
width,
okay.
Right, pretty spacious. You can adjust the angle of dangle on the seat. You can adjust the seat moves. There's like 6 positions.
Oh, wow.
So very spacious and very accommodating. The flight characteristics are, it's a light sport for sure, but fairly stable. It has a, two.
Excuse me, when you say that, what you mean is a light sport being a lighter aircraft.
Lighter aircraft,
It's going to
yeah.
feel the air more than, I don't know, 182
or
Cessna
something, exactly.
Okay, please go on.
So definitely lighter wing loading. It's a light sport. Stall, very difficult to get it to brake properly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very docile. Once there are certain ways you can really try to brake it, but the recovery from a spin is basically neutralize the stick and just hit the rudder, cut the power, neutralize, it's the typical recovery, no
These
drama.
are things you tested as
Yeah,
well?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we haven't approved it for spin. We could have, but we don't want to.
Yeah, for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
but you have to test that to be
Yes,
sure
you
of
have
its
to test it.
aerodynamic
Correct.
capabilities.
Yeah, and we tested it beyond where we put no intentional spin. You can test it less, but we went went further. So spin-wise, very easy to recover with standard procedure, recovery procedure. Very spacious, very nice interior, and maybe even nicer than what may be used to from the German product, because the Taiwanese actually, the leather and all this stuff, they take more time and they have more resources labor-wise. So very nice fit and finish interior-wise.
Yeah, I mean, it's the quality of what I see here is as good as anything else I see.
Correct.
All now, I'm going to say carbon fiber, and then I want you to, and I
Yes.
know we're supposed to be talking about how the airplane flies and stuff, but we didn't really talk about how it's made. So
Yeah.
do that briefly for me.
So,
what is this?
The schedule is almost carbon fiber. There's very little fiberglass in it.
Okay, not much fiberglass.
Not much fiberglass, mostly all carbon fiber. So it has a carbon fiber cell around the cockpit, so in case, God forbid, something happens, you're not hitting.
They've made the structure,
around
such
it,
that it'll
yeah.
protect the
yeah,
occupants.
and that came right from the flight design.
Sure. They put a lot of effort into that, I
Into
recall.
that,
Yeah.
correct, yeah. And generally a lot of times if you look at a lot of the fiberglass leaf springs, you get the
Yeah,
you get-
rebound.
Yeah, there is
Yeah, that can be a
absolutely no
problem.
absorption, almost. Like it's just like you put a ping pong, ball on the ground. In this case, it's not that it won't do that. It can do that, but there is definitely, there is some delay, so there is some absorption.
Okay.
So it's much better than what I've seen in many other leaf springs that are made out of just composite. So whatever composition is in there, it definitely holds a little bit.
Okay, great. All right, talk to me a little bit about speeds, climb rates,
Yeah.
range, stuff like that.
So, the range we officially list at 730 nautical miles with reserve, VFR reserve. But if you really get down in economy, you can go like 830.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Now that's almost 1,000 statute miles.
That's it.
On a single load of fuel. How much fuel is on board?
35 usable, 34 and a half usable, yeah.
Where do they put all that? Wow.
It's mostly in the wings, and then there is a header tank.
Okay.
Yeah, 1.6 liter header tank. And you can see the header tank, what the level is in there.
Ah, okay.
So you can also see how much vapor is coming in the header tank that's not able to escape. So you can see that. So you know that there is some vapor situation going on.
Sorry for a little airplane noise. A Honda Jet just taxied by.
Yeah, you can go pretty close to the LSA limit, but we basically, normally you're cruising between 100 to 110 knots.
Okay.
And you're burning between 4.6, 4.7 gallons.
Well, that's one way you get that long
Yeah.
range. Goodness,
Yeah,
that's
so
not
your
much
true
use.
airspeed, if you're going to 6,000, 8,000, you're getting roughly 117, 118 knots.
Speaking of getting to 6,000 or 8,000, what's the climb rate?
Oh, climb rate in standard conditions, the climb rate is fully loaded. Climb rate is 850 feet per minute.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
You get up there pretty quick then.
Takeoff distance is just just above 500 feet.
And that's at gross weight, you're
At
saying?
gross weight
Okay.
in standard conditions.
Yeah, so flying solo with a little bit down in the tank,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
probably
yeah.
going to zoom
You
up in
like,
the sky.
Yeah, you'll break ground in about 350 to 450.
Wow.
And
what is it? What was that number for fully loaded?
about 550. 540.
Still
yeah,
very
yeah,
short.
on average.
Wow. LSA,
LSA,
space. A
yeah,
lot of LSA
yeah,
are similar to that,
absolutely,
but it's
yeah.
a lot less than most GA airplanes,
Correct,
for example.
yeah.
Which many will compare this to, given its size, given its performance, given
Yeah.
its range. Yeah, it's a fair comparison to a
Correct.
GA airplane, but it's only got 2 seats, of course, like all
Right.
LSA. So.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to
Yeah,
tell me about
so-
the airplane itself and its performance?
Flying wise,
Yeah,
once
handling
you're
and stuff.
handling, pretty nice, small movements, no big, huge movements.
Dual
necessary.
joysticks.
Dual
Dual
joysticks.
pedals?
Dual pedals, correct. The brake is a hand brake.
Ah, okay.
So it's not like it's not toe brakes.
Not differential.
Yeah,
then.
not differential. So
Although I saw you whirl right in here, it
yeah,
obviously
so
wasn't any big
it's
deal.
pretty good radius
Yeah,
anyway. So
okay.
turning radius, but it is a hand. So if you're used to the toe, you will have to get used to the. So there is definitely some things you may not be used to. It depends on if you have a Piper or you have a Cessna
Sure.
or whatever. In cruise, pretty stable. Actually handles turbulence for the light sport. Handles turbulence pretty well.
Does it? Okay.
And then you have the 2-axis pilot. Sometimes if that's really gusty, you'll see it changing a little bit of heading doing this because of the gustness, because it doesn't have a 3-axis autopilot. However, very nice. We just tried it coming over here. We just sat
Push
there,
the button and
push the button.
watch the blinking
Right,
lights.
so you can watch for traffic outside.
Yeah,
Not
true.
everybody's using ADS-B. Flying low.
Especially here in Florida, we got
In
a lot
Florida,
of
yeah, and
home builts and other
exactly.
things.
You're not in mode sea whale all the time, but yeah, it's pretty nice and very nice handling. And coming down, the glide ratio is big.
You got to plan ahead, huh?
Yeah, you got to plan ahead. You will have to come down and get your numbers right on your final approach, because if you don't, you'll be floating.
You could just get a lot of float when you get ground
you'll
effect.
be like
huh?
half the runway down and still up in the air. So you just got to get down to that 55 knots.
55, that's the
53
magic
yeah.
number, is it?
Yeah, 55 or below. You put 15 degrees of flap, you need to come in at 55 or 53. If you get down to 30 degrees, you got to get down to 53 to 50.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise you'll be just floating. Yeah, it has a lot of float in it, and the glide ratio you gotta really expect, like if you're flying a 152, it's like 1.5 times the 152. Almost.
Yeah.
Pretty close. 1.4 for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
impressive.
So that's and yeah, with the extra little bit of the winglets and stuff, it's even more than the CTLS and CTLSI.
Now I'm looking over your shoulder kind of, and I
Yeah.
see no strut on this airplane. This
No
is a
strut.
cantilevered airplane.
Correct.
Does that have any, in turbulence, do you notice that, or does it feel
No,
taut?
it feels taut.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very taut. I don't notice it much. And a tiny bit of give actually in turbulence is not a bad thing.
Yeah, sure, it relieves it.
Because it relieves you from feeling it right in your seat. So there are two, overlapping.
Is that how it
yeah,
works?
Exactly, and there are two pins that are going in. But there's probably just the tiniest bit of movement that may be allowed, and the tiniest bit of movement is you don't really feel it.
You don't even notice it,
You
huh?
don't even notice it. But it does seem to handle the turbulence pretty well, thermals and stuff, better than most ones in this wing loading category.
Okay, well, let's try and wrap it up here, Abid. So a lot of great information. There's a lot more people want to know, and I know that. So 2 questions for you. First
Sure.
of all, where can we see you at an air show next? It's 2025 in May, as I said earlier. Where are we going to see you next?
Oshkosh.
Oshkosh.
That's our big coming out. So we have 3 spots left for introductory pricing, 175 plus shipping, and that's with the BRS. Without the BRS, 165. So take advantage of that.
Some opportunities there.
Dual Dynon HDX, dual access autopilot, all in there. So only the BRS is
Pretty loaded up here.
pretty loaded up. Yeah, pretty
Okay.
loaded up. So very nice
So you can
price.
find you at Oshkosh 2025
Correct.
and other shows later. You can find
Yes.
out more at a certain website that you're going to tell me right now.
The website is AeroJonesUSA.com.
AeroJonesUSA.com.
And you'll find a contact us form there, my email's there. You can do that, or you can text me on the number that's listed at the website.
Beautiful, okay.
So that's a business cell number, so I'll get it. between business hours.
Good for
Try
you.
to keep a life. But yeah, during business hours, I'll get it. Generally, I handle that phone between 10 and 5.
Okay, sounds great. Abid, thank you so much for coming to the Spruce Creek Airport today to show me AJ Sport.
Yep.
Abid Farooqui, Dan Johnson here, and I hope you'll come and see it at Oshkosh or go to the website AeroJonesUSA.com. Thanks so much, folks.
Thank you.